A crowded ballroom. Laughter, music, and the shimmer of wealth filled the air. Among the polished shoes and glittering gowns, a waitress moved quietly, carrying trays no one cared to notice. But one man noticed, only to humiliate her. A wealthy guest, smug with power, decided she was entertainment, not staff. With a cruel smirk, he dared her to step onto the dance floor, convinced she would stumble, falter, and become the night's joke. Yet what followed wasn't the embarrassment he expected. It was something no one in that room could have imagined. What happens when arrogance collides with hidden strength? Her name was Maya. By day, she balanced 2 jobs to help her mother keep the lights on at home. By night, she slipped into a crisp black and white uniform, blending into the background of a world that was never built for her. She had learned early that in rooms filled with wealth and power, her role was to serve quietly, unseen, almost invisible. But Maya wasn't invisible. Behind tired eyes was a young woman who dreamed of more, of music, of movement, of a life where she wasn't defined by her apron. On weekends, when she wasn't working, she lost herself in dance studios where mirrors reflected not just her body, but her freedom. To dance was to breathe. It was the one place where her skin color, her job title, and her bank account couldn't cage her spirit. That evening she wasn't on stage, but in a grand ballroom serving champagne. The clinking glasses, expensive perfumes, and polished laughter painted a sharp contrast to her reality. She moved gracefully, but few looked her in the eye. To them, she was just the help. Still, Maya carried herself with quiet dignity. She never expected her world and her passion to collide under that glittering ceiling. She never imagined that before the night was over, she would be forced onto the very stage she had always dreamed of, and judged not by her talent, but by the color of her skin. The night carried on, glittering with wealth and arrogance. Maya moved between tables with practiced grace, balancing glasses and trays while laughter bubbled all around her. She had grown used to being ignored, but that night one man noticed. His eyes followed her as if she were part of the evening's entertainment, not part of the staff. He was a millionaire, known in business circles for his ruthless deals and his love of attention. With every sip of his drink, his smirk widened, feeding off the crowd's energy. When the music shifted to a lively beat, he leaned back in his chair, pretending to be bored. Then, with a voice loud enough to slice through the music, he sneered, pointing toward Maya. "Let's see if she can keep up with the rhythm." His words weren't an invitation, they were a dare. A cruel, public challenge wrapped in mockery. The room turned. Dozens of eyes fell on Maya, some curious, others amused, a few indifferent. For a brief moment, she froze, her tray trembling in her hand. She wasn't just being asked to dance, she was being put on display, forced into a spotlight she hadn't chosen. Maya knew what they saw, a young black woman in a uniform, expected to serve, not shine. She had seen it before, this unspoken belief that she didn't belong in their world, except to pour their drinks and clean their plates. To refuse him might cost her the job she desperately needed. To accept meant risking humiliation before a room full of strangers. The millionaire tapped his glass and the crowd laughed. Someone even clapped, egging her on as if she were a circus act. Heat rose in her chest, part fear, part anger. She wanted to disappear, but another part of her, the part that lived in dance studios, the part that dreamed of stages, stirred. She stepped forward. The laughter quieted into anticipation. Every move she made was under a microscope, every breath measured. The music grew louder, pulsing through the chandeliers, and the floor beneath her felt like it was waiting. Maya's mind raced. What if she failed? What if her body betrayed her, stumbling under the weight of their stares? The millionaire leaned back, confident she would crumble, already savoring the scene he thought he had created. But Maya wasn't only carrying a tray that night. She carried years of being underestimated, overlooked, and judged. Every insult she'd endured, every door that had been slammed in her face, every time her worth had been measured by her skin rather than her soul, those moments were building inside her like a storm. And as the first beat struck, she made her choice. The music surged and Maya let go. Her body moved with a precision and fire that silenced the room. Each step struck the marble floor like defiance itself. She spun, leapt, and flowed with the rhythm, not as a servant forced into the spotlight, but as an artist reclaiming it. For a moment, the ballroom ceased to be a playground for the wealthy. It became her stage. Gasps replaced laughter. Guests leaned forward, eyes widening as the waitress they had dismissed revealed a talent none of them could ignore. Her movements weren't just dance. They were truth, power, and years of unspoken pain erupting into beauty. But not everyone celebrated. The millionaire's smirk hardened into a scowl. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He wanted a spectacle of failure, not triumph. He rose from his seat, his voice sharp and venomous, cutting through the awestruck silence. "Enough," he barked, waving his hand as if dismissing a servant. "Get back to work. This isn't your place." The command hung in the air, heavy with entitlement. It wasn't just about the dance. It was about reminding her of the role he believed she should play. In that moment, every unspoken rule of power and prejudice pressed down on her shoulders. Maya stood still, chest heaving, eyes locked on him. The room waited, suspended between his authority and her defiance. Her hands no longer held a tray, her body no longer bowed in service. She had shown them who she truly was. And then, with a steady breath, she took one final step forward, choosing not to shrink, but to stand. The ballroom stood frozen. The millionaire's order still echoed in the air, but something had shifted. The crowd had seen Maya's truth, and no amount of wealth or arrogance could erase it. A few guests clapped hesitantly, then others joined, their applause swelling until the room thundered. It wasn't just for her dance. It was for the courage to stand tall when everything around her demanded she bow. The millionaire, red with anger, sank back into his chair. His power over the moment had vanished. Maya didn't need his approval. She didn't need anyone's. She had walked into that ballroom as the help, but she left it as something far greater, a reminder that dignity can't be stripped away, no matter how deeply prejudice tries to cut. For Maya, the night was more than a performance. It was a declaration. She returned home exhausted but lighter, carrying with her the knowledge that she had refused to be defined by the labels others placed on her. And for everyone who watched, the image of a young black woman reclaiming her space lingered, an unshakable mirror reflecting the ugliness of arrogance and the brilliance of resilience. But here's the truth. Maya's story is not rare. Across the world, countless voices are silenced, countless talents overlooked, countless lives reduced to stereotypes and shadows because of racism. How many dreams are crushed before they even have the chance to be seen? So the question lingers for all of us. When arrogance and injustice stand center stage, will we stay silent in the audience, or will we rise and clap for what is right?